Hello again, and welcome to another installment of Masters of Nebraska Bands. My name is Brian Anderson. I am a member of the Past President's Council, and it is my honor to present these video sessions for you. Today is a real treat because we have with us three of the people who were the masters of making the Papillion La Vista band program the premier band program in the state of Nebraska. So, from left to right, we have Glen Koca, band director at Papillion La Vista High School, Ken Molzer at Papillion Middle School, and Dick Keiser at La Vista Middle School. And I would like to start by asking each of you to give a little background on your life, how you became a music teacher, your teaching experiences. And Glen, we'll start with you.
Okay, I was born on a farm just north of a little town of Milligan. They had no band program, so I played with what they called the Brass Legion Band, way above my head at that time. Had a lot of ex-military guys that played in bands, and so that was kind of my experience there. Went to February Junior College on an athletic scholarship, a $35 athletic scholarship. Tuition was $60. And played football and basketball there, and then I went to the University of Nebraska. I majored in music there too. The program was pretty limited. Went to the University of Nebraska, majored in music there, and my last year I taught at Plymouth, and Ken was one of my students, and had plans on going. And I played with the Mickey Call band. I was pretty busy. I taught 2 days a week and school 3 days a week, and played about 100 dance jobs with the Mickey Call band. And then I was supposed to teach at Wilbur and Plymouth the next year, and Uncle Sam called me, so I went to the service, played in the 97th Army Band at Fort Sill, Oklahoma. Came back to Bruning. Mickey left Bruning, had to find a replacement for him to go to Hebron, so I was at Bruning for 7 years, and I had the Glenn James Band. Ken played some jobs with me, and he followed me around a lot, or I kept pulling him, I don't know. And anyway, was there 7 years, and then came to Papillion when Papillion was quite small. They were, a few years before, they were a Class C school, playing Ashland and Weeping Water and schools like that. And then military kind of came in there, and I think I had, there's 400 kids in high school when I came there. We had 85 seniors and 5 were in the band. And so did that for about just the whole program, 4 elementaries, senior high and junior high, started junior high. And in Bruning I did the whole works, elementary and vocal and everything. Kind of wanted to get out of that. So I was there, and then a few years down the road, we were looking for junior high, and the principal said, go out there and pick the best band guy you could find. So I asked Ken if he wanted to come in, and he could tell you the rest. I don't know. Anyway, and so we did the elementary and high school and junior high together about that time. And then a few years later, Dick student taught for me. And then he got the job at the La Vista. I think it was all 6th grade, wasn't it? You started kind of the all 6th grade. We used to start them in the 5th grade, and then, well, we were getting kind of overloaded. So we said, this is a good thing. They're busing all the 6th graders to one spot, so that was good. And so we worked the 6th grade. And so then we were together till about end of time. Okay. And I left then I went to then Dick went to, where Elkhorn, Elkhorn, and I went to junior high then, and did junior high and elementary for my last 6 years, and that's about it for.
All right, Ken?
And the rest of the story. I was raised on a farm north of Plymouth, and we had a different music teacher every year, and Glenn was my wife and I. Charlotte and I are 1/5 of our graduating class from Plymouth High School, and Glenn was our teacher in I guess we were juniors that year, juniors, and he did some great things that got us really involved, and he started a little dance band and things in high school, and at that time I was playing with a little polka band in high school, and played tenor sax and bought myself a metal clarinet and tried to teach myself clarinet. And then after high school, I was just going to stay on the farm because we farmed quite a bit of land but didn't own anything. And I thought, well, I'm just going to be a farmer. And my dad says, well, no, you better go to college. He says, you could always come back to the farm. And I said, well, what would I take in college? And my mom says, well, you kind of like music. And I take piano lessons and accordion lessons, and I was playing the sax and things. So I said, well, okay. So all I could afford was to go to Fairbury Junior College, and the price had really escalated since Glen went there. It was $90 a semester.
Okay.
And so while I was there, Glen had come back from the service, and I was playing with this dance band, and I finished my 2 years up at Fairbury, then went on to the University of Nebraska here and finished up there, and then after that I went to Shickley. Opened up, had a strong program in Shickley, and at that time Glen was at Bruning, and so I was at Shickley for 6 years, and then Glen came to Papillion, and I finished a couple years out in Shickley, and then went to Wahoo Public, and was there a couple years, and at that time, after teaching 8 years, I thought I would like to do something in junior high. At that time, there were no solo and ensemble things for junior high. There was really no clinics or anything. I thought if I could get into a junior high, I would like to establish something for the experience, for kids to get experience in solo and ensemble, so it just wouldn't be all of a sudden in high school. And I thought, well, if a good junior high opened up sometime, I'd be interested. So got the call from Glen, and I wasn't quite ready to go into junior high. At that time, it was 7th and 8th grade to call it junior high. But well, this is an opportunity. So of course, I had known Glen for 10 years, and knew the program that he had established there. And said, wow, I want to go to a junior high that's got a strong high school program, and that was it. And so came there in '69 to Papillion, and Glen and I taught. We were in all the elementaries from 5th grade up. We divvied those up and had the middle school and had the high school, and then just kept expanding, and Dick, of course, came on in '72, I think it was. He can go on with that, but that's my history there. So
Okay, Dick.
Well, the common thread is we're all farm kids, all three of us, and so from that farm background, there really wasn't a lot of music in my country grade school that I went to. I mean, the music consisted of, we had 2 piano players in the school, myself and the other girl in my class. I mean, the 2 of us. Yeah, and so that the music, that was the music. So I didn't pick up playing an instrument until I was a freshman in high school, and found a used clarinet in one of the small towns there. So when I went to town, to school, I determined I wanted to do that. Went on, I think a big influence for me was the Wayne State Music Camp. And that was something I really, that's so much fun. And so I think that probably inspired me to go on into college at least, and consider and do music as music education. Quite lucky enough, I think, looking back, in 1972 I started teaching. I needed both vocal and instrumental certification. So it required us to student teach an entire year. So fortunately I got assigned to Papillion and got to work with both of these guys. And that was just a tremendous eye-opening experience for me to have these 2 guys as my mentors. The first 3 years that I taught them was in the Papillion La Vista Middle School. We housed all of the 6th graders from both communities into one building. So I would have 200 to 235 beginners that we would use that we could start it. So what you didn't know, you learned very quickly, because you had to. You're trying to stay ahead of those kids, and there was some very strong roots in the program going. So I knew that I need to kind of be on the ball with things.
Sure.
After 3 years, they built and then opened up the La Vista Junior High, which I went to. That was a unique building because it was a 6 through 9 building. So we housed all of those. Again, we started in the 6th grade, so we had them right in there in the same building. And then, earlier it was kind of, we didn't have the number of students in the program from the La Vista side that from the earlier years that were the contributions, the enrollment, the numbers of kids that opted to start learning to play from La Vista was a smaller group. So over the years, the challenge became to try to increase that and try to then try to tap into some of the things that Ken was doing at the junior high level, and what things I could copy, what things I could bring into there, and yet maybe retain some of the differences with the personalities too. So,
Great.
Dance band background. Regrettably, it was with these two guys in the same band. We played together for guys. It was
30 years.
34 years for me, and these two guys were both on the band a long time before that. I think almost were square when Glenn started on it. But that was a tremendous experience because here we were working together, but picking each other's brains. At least me picking their brains too on the job on Friday and Saturday nights, Sundays.
When I left Bruning, my wife said, "Well, you don't have to play anymore." And I said, "Yeah, that's it." Well, I was there 1 week, and a guy by the name of Fritz Serb, I had some of his kids in band, and he said, "We need a sax player tonight." And I played sax in the Army band because they had too many trumpet players, I guess. And so anyway, I said, "Well, I'll help you out that one night," and I helped him out for 35 years. But then later, their second trumpet player retired, so I told him, I said, "Well, we gotta, I'll check with Ken if he wants to play, although I'll go to trumpet." And so he played with them probably longer than I did because I gave it up around 2000. But that's how time flies.
I just think that's amazing because not only are you doing such an outstanding job educating young people, you're keeping that lifelong learner thing and the lifelong being able to perform music, which I think is so important and lacks a little bit these days. Now, Glenn, you were at Papillion first, and then Ken came along. So when you guys started working together, how did you structure the program? Was there a certain way that you did things or some certain things that you implemented that you thought would help the program grow?
I guess we split the elementary. I forget if we had 4 schools or 6 schools. We were moving pretty fast. A lot of military people, a lot of white flight probably. And so he took 2 and I took 2, and he did junior high and I did senior high. And we probably did a little bit cross teaching there a little bit. It's been a long time ago.
Sure.
But we were pretty well left alone. I don't think, like Dick said, we were kind of from the same mold, and we played a lot of dance jobs together, and we discussed a lot of business for them 2-hour flat jobs we went to some places. So probably saw each other more then than we actually did teaching.
So Ken, then when Dick comes along and we're expanding the program more, especially at the lower level, then what did you guys do to implement some
Well, I think first of all, we're family. We kind of knew what each one did in their own school, whether it was a high school or junior highs at that time. And I think basically, the crux of the program was we had time to teach. We gave every student at that time, and Glenn did the same thing. We gave every student got a lesson, and we had a contact with them once a week. And we could really work with them one-on-one and take care of their problems and know them personally and their family and all that whole thing. When we came from either Bruning or Shickley, we knew the parents, we knew everybody. It was, and I taught from kindergarten on up, and we knew all that. It was so easy because you knew how to handle the kids because you knew the parents. And when you get to a larger school, it didn't have quite that much contact, but with our lesson schedule, that gave us that freedom at that time. There wasn't so many things in the schedule. I mean, right now there's so many things that are vying for the time of the student. At that time there was study halls or whatever it might be, free times. And I always said, I think that was probably the most, that was a strong point of the program. It may have been some teaching, there were some good teachers here, but having the contact time with them, and Glenn gave lessons all the time, I gave lessons all the time, Dick did the same thing, then we'd have our band rehearsals, and we could do those things, and it was basics, you know, we had the scales, and we did all that, and so by the time they got out of junior high, I'll speak for Dick too, but by the time they got out of junior high, my goal was that they were prepared. I mean, there shouldn't be any questions. When they left there and went to the high school, they're ready to go. And go and have fun with them, you know, and keep working with them. And so I think that was the thing. We just had time. And of course, I mean, our schedules were full from 7 till 4 o'clock. I mean, there was no, I mean, many times we'd be eating lunch out of a sack and giving lessons. I mean, there was no downtime.
Well, that's great.
One more thing in regard to that, like lessons, right? We had an hour-and-a-half lunch period in high school, and if they didn't have a study hall, the first half hour, 2 kids would come in, and one would eat lunch, and the other one would take a lesson, and vice versa. So you could give 30 lessons a week that way, 6 every time, plus if they had high school. But I think another thing that helped is we had a lot of good cooperation at that time from guys like Raj Miller and those guys. And we all had summer programs. And I think about the summer program I had 5 days a week from 7 to 3 or more if we needed. Had band maybe 3 times a week, 2 hours. Everybody after band on a Tuesday, we had flute sectionals, clarinet sectionals, sax sectionals. On a Wednesday, we had trumpet sectionals, so on. And then everybody took a lesson too.
We had 8 weeks of summer band.
Yeah.
8 weeks of summer band. And it was like, you know, in school you had to abide by the schedule you got, but this was it. I mean, you just had a schedule, and most of the kids would show up, and I'd give 4 an hour, you know, maybe if they were all the same. If not, they were 15-minute individual lessons. And if they were out for vacation or family trips, they let me know we were going to be there, so I could go 3 an hour or you know, shift things around. So.
Well, that's amazing, and that's something that just doesn't happen today because there's just so many demands on a student's time. So this is fantastic. Dick, do you have anything to add about that?
Well, you know, and again, probably that lesson impact, but the materials too, the emphasis placed on the proficiencies of scales and rudiments. And I don't mean just being able to blow your way from a C to a C on a trumpet or a clarinet and back down again. I mean, we really made at the junior high level, we really made those things they were so inherent into the program, but they were separate from the lessons. This is something that kid's just going to do. They're just going to do it. And then I know in my situation, it really became something where the kids saw that individual challenge. They wanted to play it better than the person that sat up above them. And that fed itself a great deal. And I know for my program, I was always trying to reach out and try to, you know, can I match up to what's being done at Papillion Junior High? I almost slipped up and called it the other junior high for a moment. Yeah, I was the other junior high.
You were the other junior high.
And so, but you were constantly trying to get that. It wasn't a case of trying to one-upsmanship, you know, between buildings with that. It was trying to make things as easy of a transition to come out of 9th grade and go into the high school as possible. And the kids just really excelled at that.
One more thing I think about private lessons, you got to know the kids better, and they got to know you better. And so, you know, if you were kind of a bad in band, they knew that you meant some business, and but then when you see them you didn't chew them out in lessons, you know, you were, and they just knew what you were like. Dr. Heckle, you know.
Yeah, that's right.
But they knew that there was a time to get tough, and there was a time to have a little fun.
I'm just going to go down the line here and ask you if you had anything that you implemented into your program that you're very proud of. And Glenn, let's start with you. Is there one thing or a couple of things that you think really kind of made the difference for you?
Oh, man, I don't know. In marching band, we were kind of famous for the blocks.
Definitely.
And I still had people tell me about that. And so I saw that someplace. I went to a clinic in Wichita, I think, and this guy from Texas would set it up every time with string and stakes. I said, that's got to be a better thing than that. So I designed a kind of a square with rods in there so you could go through the blocks. And it just, first of all, it creates discipline and esprit de corps and everything, and then it strengthens your legs. So when we did a lot of high knee lifting, and so they could do that power step.
Yes.
Because they were just so used to doing that, and that created unity and continuity and everything. So if you went through an 8-minute show that we never stopped, they had to be in condition.
Yeah,
so in marching band, concert band, I don't know, just did, we use a lot of, every first 10, 15 minutes of the band rehearsal, we went through, and I went up to the high school and looked for those books, and they don't even have those books anymore, so evidently they're not using it. But we went through a rhythm etude book and a scale etude book and rehearsal fundamentals books, all kind of different books. And basically, I always said they're almost the same thing in each book, but if you have a different cover, you can do that as a sophomore, and the next one is a junior, next one is a senior. They don't realize they're repeating it and just, getting better on it, and not thinking that, well, I have to do that same book again.
And they were the McLeod-Staska rhythm etude and scale etude books, because after I saw you do a session on those, I went out and bought those in my second year of teaching.
They had chords in there.
Yes, they were great resources.
And scales or etudes, you could play them against each other.
And people don't know about those, and it's a shame.
Yeah.
It really is. Ken, what about you?
Well, I guess any kind of material is only as good as a teacher. I mean, we got all kinds of material down there. There's an enormous amount of things out there, and I know I thought that the Breeze Easy was the Bible, and that's what we carried on. Breeze Easy Book 1, Breeze Easy Book 2, and I felt that if they could get through that and understand those books, that they could go on with rhythms or whatever it might be. And of course, we taught kids in private lessons. We could use that book and work under individual skills, and then we went on to probably the advanced Rubank book, those types of things. But we emphasized, and Glenn was a master of that, of just the basics, and warm-ups and everything. We're working on the basics, and then why did they play transcriptions so well? I mean, no one at a high school band had played transcriptions as well as Glenn's high school band. Like, whoa! And those violin parts were just there in the clarinets. I mean, it was outstanding. Well, because the kids had basic fundamentals, and they were doing that. So I guess maybe Dick can speak for himself, but in the junior high, that was our goal too, the basic fundamentals. And we would have the scale club, or what we call it, Dick.
What did we call it, or what did the kids call it?
Well, we're being taped. We won't say what the kids call it. But it was a contest. If your name was on the wall, it was called the 15 Club.
15 Club.
So we'd have the major scales, and then we go to the natural minor, and the harmonic minor, and the melodic minor. And there were kids that they could whip through the 60 scales, and some of them would play 2 octaves, 3 octaves. I mean, it was just part of the. I mean, to see the name on the wall, like, whoa, they made the 15 Club or whatever it was. And so, I think just basic fundamentals. And I had a couple teachers would come and observe, and they said, well, how do you do that? And I said, well, it's a 4-letter word. And I said, it's called work, W-O-R-K. It just takes work. You just have to see the kids and work with them and have them buy into it. And so I guess we just took the model from Glenn, fundamentals,
That's a great motivational thing to use. So, Nick, do you have anything?
Of course, obviously what Ken and Glenn have said, but I know one thing that Ken and I implemented. Ken did research. I read some of what the research we did, and we talked about rhythm. And we really implemented a breath impulse technique. And that was a big rhythmic tool for us. It made it something that was doable for the kids. Later on, it led into vibrato, a real easy technique to teach vibrato. But the rhythmic tool that provided us, the kids enjoyed doing it. Their ability to count out loud, the vocabulary that they could exist. And I'm talking, I mean, some extremely complex rhythm things, way past what just simple, the 5 or so 16th note rhythms that you'd see, into sextuplets and whatever. It provided a vocabulary for that. So it gave us an opportunity to use that, so.
Fantastic, fantastic. This is just great stuff. In the early 1980s, you presented a session at NMEA, and you shared kind of the structure of the Papillion Band program, where a student's first priority every week was to their lesson, to the individual, and then to the section, and then to the full ensemble. So I would just, first of all, I'd like you to discuss that a little more, or maybe share with us, and I'm going to ask you two whether it was the same way at your then junior high schools. So.
Yeah, I was looking for one of them forms I made out, and I must have thrown mine away.
I think I still have mine. I should have brought it.
Well, I guess lessons was, we talked about that, tried squeezing them in. Sometimes we didn't have such good luck. Sometimes you got to go at 6:30 or 7 o'clock in the morning or after school to get them. That's why I say the summer was really, really helpful. And then the sectionals, we had some books, and I wrote some stuff out that we'd mostly use it for balance and intonation and something that probably you don't really stress that much in the private thing. And our private thing, by the time they were seniors, they were playing in Arbin books or Close books or some advanced book. And so the sectionals was pretty well. Then once in a while in the summertime sectionals, we had a county fair concert coming up or something, so we might have taken that and spend time working on the music, because we didn't get that much music, probably 2 or 3 weeks to get that concert out. And of course the ensemble, we just kind of did the same thing, because those books kind of chords and tuning and phrasing and balance, and I think all of you guys, both of you guys did that too. Some for Jim, what's his name? Johnson at Creighton Prep. Doug, yeah, and he kind of took it. He could be sitting right here with us, and he kind of did the same thing. And boy, the bands were disciplined, and they did the same thing with the band ensemble.
Sure.
And so I guess that's if they can play individually. Like no chain is any stronger than its weakest link. And if not all of us had some weak guys and sit down low, but we always managed to have a lot of depth. I think got them from 2 different junior highs. One year one might have had better brass than the other. One year somebody might have had, and that was in high school too. I'm listening to some of my cassette tapes now that I haven't heard for 20, 30, 40 years, and I think about every band sounds the same, but they still sound different, because maybe clarinets were strong one year and maybe some other instruments. But because our clarinets were not as strong one year as others, that didn't mean we still didn't play a lot of music, because that's the way they got better, by challenging them. So I don't know. I guess those 3 things was the individual and ensemble band.
Well, I guess that when you get older, you kind of wax nostalgia. Looking back, we came through in a great era, and I think we touched on it. We had the opportunity to work with kids individually. They had study halls or whatever it would be. I mean, we didn't back off. We were working all the time, but we had the opportunity. And I always say that nowadays, well, it's like having a smorgasbord, and now the smorgasbord gets bigger and bigger and bigger, more things that are on the smorgasbord in the schedule, but the plate is the same size. We didn't expand the plate, only so many hours in a day, so there are so many more things being offered and vying for their time that we didn't have to even think about. In the old days, the kids had the time, and I mean, I would have kids that would practice, 900 minutes a week. I mean, it almost, like 8, 9 hours, 10 hours a week they'd practice. Oh, my word. And because we didn't have anything else to do. And I know I was thinking about going from high school to junior high, but when I was this has been like in the late 70s or 60s, 67, 68, when I was at Wahoo, I could see more girls athletics coming into high school, and I'm being rather selfish, I guess. I'm going to go down into the junior high because there wasn't as many girls athletic, probably volleyball. And I said, I think maybe I could do more with the junior high, and of course that's changed. But just that part, I mean, there was just kids in the band room all the time. I mean, that was their home away from home, and they were there practicing and rehearsing, and you had to at 5 o'clock run them out because that was the thing. So I think, and I'll speak for myself, but I think we were very fortunate to be in that era where we had the opportunity to work with kids like that.
And we could use discipline.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
Which is kind of history now.
We all three of us would probably be out of
5
job
minutes.
and probably in jail maybe if we did something.
I feel comfortable with everything I did.
Well, Dick, go ahead.
Well, the lessons were first and foremost, so again, that student unto themselves, that was what made that. That lend itself, as Glenn mentioned earlier, you sit down with a student once a week for 15 or 20 minutes. You're doing more besides teaching them, and you're establishing a rapport. As Dr. Tim said this morning, there's a trust that can be developed there, and that lent itself then later on in rehearsal. I think that lent itself a great deal into the ability to have discipline. I know my students, and I suspect that is true also of Papillion Junior High and the high school too. They expected themselves. I had a lot of times students that took care of any discipline issue that was going on. It could have been just a nudge or turned into said, we don't do that here. Or maybe a student came in from a different building. So that was not something that inhibited us a lot of times. It was worked to our advantage in rehearsals. Getting back to that lesson situation, it also in later years then, after we started, Ken and I particularly initially started getting involved with the Elkhorn Band Olympics, and those lessons just offered us that opportunity to have those students do so exceptionally well for the Olympics. And then Glenn started working with the sophomore groups upcoming. So the team of the Papillion La Vista was always one team, 3 schools, but one team. And that team effort, just the kids bonded together. There were a few times where Ken and I could take a group. One example, we had a French horn quartet, 2 from La Vista and 2 from Papillion, and they rehearsed and came to school, and that was such a neat ability to be able to do that. Again, provided us through lessons.
And what I think is significant about how you structured that program is in today's world, if it doesn't get taught in the full ensemble rehearsal, it's not going to get taught.
Yeah.
And it's easy for students to get left behind, and this way, you guys were on the cutting edge. I'm disappointed that there isn't more of that going on. Now, we're going to start with Dick, and we'll go this way, but if you could wave a magic wand and fix something that you see or hear in today's bands that you would like to fix, what would it be?
The tape's rolling on it.
Yes, the tape is rolling.
For me, it would be intonation. I feel like I've grown a good deal more concerned about that. And you can hear such fine bands playing, and then all of a sudden there's and of course that's an individual player that can, that's not a fault to a director, but sometimes you hear bands playing with a lot of that, and that has to be something that could be cured from the podium.
Yes.
So I would say intonation, spend more time. Sometimes it means putting a
And that
mouthpiece on.
could be something that would be solved maybe with more individual
Individual,
lessons.
sure, yeah.
Ken?
I'll just dovetail into that. The band director now, in the large group, it's difficult to pick out every little thing.
Absolutely.
And in the individual lesson, you can take care of that, maybe an intonation problem with the individual. I mean, the clarinet, hey, this isn't working here, or the saxophone, whatever it might be, they're individual tuning problems. So when they went into band, it wasn't a problem. When you have 50, 60 kids there for 1 hour a day or whatever it's going to be, it's very difficult. And I really admire the band directors now that can get that much done with the time that they have with the students. I mean, it's incredible. It's every little thing, and if it's intonation or if it's just articulation and all those things you try to do in the large group, and to spend time individually or in sectionals, it's just much more bonding. We mentioned that, and the individual time you spend with their problem that they might have. It's just not there, and that's a shame. If I have a magic wand, I'd say let's give some more time to the band directors to be able to work with their students.
Glenn?
Well, I really haven't gone to too many band things. I guess when I retired, I had 3 sons and I had 10 grandkids, and they all were athletes. So I went all over the country following some of them playing baseball and basketball and all that. But so I haven't really followed that much. However, I heard a lot of pep bands, and I know I used to tell my kids, you know what, there's going to be more people here in this pep band than there is your concert band. So you better play as well as you can. And and I went around. Millard, I had some kids at Millard West played, and some at Papillion West Side. And fortunately, those 2 schools had pretty good band programs. But boy, there's some places you go and you just wonder what's going on in those places. And so I don't know. It's maybe they don't spend any time on pep band. They just think it's something they have to do. And but we actually practiced pep band when we found time to do
Sure.
it.
Okay.
And I had a lot of referees would come. Now in those years, it was playing things like Sweet Georgia Brown and Rock Around the Clock. And they'd come around, they'd say, "This is the best band we've heard all year." Maybe it's because we played music they knew. I don't know. But they're still playing some of the same music. I still hear Horse, and I hear 25. We were the first band to play 25 or 64 at when our team went
Next
to
to
state.
Chicago, maybe.
Yeah, from our team was at state finals that year in '71, and we played it. And I had band directors come to me, "Where'd you get that music?" It was just hot off the press, I guess.
Great. Well, first of all, I'd like to thank all 3 of you for being here. I do have one final question that I would like each of you to address, and that is, what advice do you have for both beginning and veteran band directors? If you could offer one piece of advice to the profession, what would it be? And Glenn, let's start with you.
Oh, boy. Well, I don't know. I don't know what's going on now. I'd say, first of all, you have to have discipline, have control of the control of the group. If you don't have control of the group, there's nothing you can, the rest is lost. Know what you're doing and be prepared. It takes a little time to study something, a score or something. You better study it, because it's just like a halftime show. If things, all of us probably went through that. If something doesn't go right, don't keep doing something. What is it? The definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over. So, that happened to me too. It looked good on paper. I said, well, forget about it. We'll move to the next position. So you just got to stay ahead of the clan, I think.
Okay, good. Ken?
I guess I gave a couple of sessions years ago on organizing your organization, and I think just being organized, knowing what you're doing, and in a rehearsal, being prepared for that, and know what's going on in your school, and I guess just making use of your time. I know it's hard to get kids nowadays, but try and work to see if you can. I guess we talk so much about lessons, right? And that seems that's the whole nucleus of the Papillion La Vista program, was that contact. And I think if I could say one thing, is just this work to try to get to those students. And sometimes it's impossible. I understand it, because budgets are being cut and money and all those things are entering into it now. And there's so many battles that the band director has to fight. And I would say just hang in there and stand up for your program, stay in there. And all of us had to do it. Glenn had to do it. I had to do it. Dick had to do it. I mean, it was not an ivory tower. It wasn't.
Our budgets weren't all too great.
No. And every time we had to do those things. Right, Dick?
Yes, we did.
Okay, so Dick, go ahead.
I taught for 41 years in schools, and I must say I enjoyed going to school every day. I enjoyed going home every day too. But I when I look back on that, I know that we had great discipline, and that discipline came from the kids. Somehow I got that message across to them. This is what we expect, but if I had somebody came and asked me for some advice, I'd tell maybe a veteran, keep going to sessions, keep going, learn, talk to other people, or at least listen, listen as somebody's talking about, because you can pick up an idea. Don't be afraid to try something that somebody else is having some luck with. Glenn said it earlier, don't be afraid to go to plan B, pitch plan A and go to plan B. Make something work for yourself. As far as a younger director, much the same. Go, make sure you're listening, go to programs, go to workshops, try to better yourself. I know I feel like within my band program, number one, I never tried to be a kid's friend, and we know that's that doesn't, and I think a lot of times some directors try to do that, but I always showed, as I know these two guys did too, I always showed interest in what the kid was doing outside the band room. Hey, you're on the basketball team, how'd it go last week? Chances are we were at those games anyway, we knew. But you tried to keep touch with those kids too, and let them know that I know you have interests outside of band, and how's that going? How you doing? So do that too, show an interest in what kids are doing.
I think that was it. We've gone to all of us went together, or two, we've gone to Wisconsin to workshops, to Chicago, Midwest, to Wichita, Kansas State, whatever. I think that's it. Sometimes from workshops, 3-day workshops is worth the whole semester of college, because it's detailed for 8 hours a day for 3 days.
Okay. Well, ladies and gentlemen, the Papillion High School Band Papillion La Vista High School Band is the only high school band from Nebraska to receive the coveted Sudler Flag of Honor. And as you can see here today, it is because of the structure of the program from the lowest levels, or the elementary level, up through middle school into the high school, that has allowed the Papillion Band program to achieve this unprecedented status and quality. I'd like to thank my guests, Glen Koca, Ken Molzer, and Dick Keiser. And I would also like to thank Dan Ely and Mid-America Video Images for this production today. Until next time, this is Brian Anderson saying, better bands for Nebraska.